Governments love to tell you they are working for your financial freedom. They talk about stability, growth, opportunity. But if you look closely at history, a much darker pattern appears. Because for centuries, governments have relied on hidden financial tricks to keep ordinary people dependent, while wealth and power quietly move upward. And here's the shocking part. None of these tricks are new. They've been recycled again and again. Different names, different language, same outcome. Let's start with the oldest and simplest trick of all: inflation. When a government spends more than it can collect through taxes, it has two choices. It can admit the truth and raise taxes openly, which is politically dangerous, or it can quietly reduce the value of money itself. Ancient Rome mastered this tactic. In the 3rd century AD, Roman emperors struggling to pay for armies began reducing the silver content of the denarius. What was once nearly pure silver slowly became mostly copper, coated with a thin layer of silver on top. On paper, nothing had changed. But in reality, everyone holding those coins was paying the price. Prices rose. Savings evaporated. Wages failed to keep up. It was a silent tax on the population, a trick still used today, just with central banks instead of imperial mints. In the Middle Ages, the game evolved into something else: forced loans. Kings in England, France, and Spain routinely demanded money from wealthy merchants and guilds. These loans were not voluntary. Refusal meant fines, confiscation, or worse. Sometimes repayment was promised. Often it arrived late, in devalued currency, or never at all. The crown funded wars and palaces. Merchants had no real choice but to surrender their capital. Coercion was disguised as patriotism and duty, and it worked for centuries. By the 17th century, the financial system itself became the trick. In 1694, Britain created the Bank of England. Not out of charity, but because the government needed money to fight wars with France. Wealthy investors lent money to the state in exchange for guaranteed interest. And who paid that interest? Ordinary people. Through taxes on basic goods like salt, beer, and cloth. The wealthy earned secure returns. The poor funded them. A wealth transfer system dressed up as national finance. A pattern that still exists today. And that brings us to the modern world. Today, the tricks are everywhere. Governments run massive deficits and issue debt. Politicians tell the public it's for infrastructure, jobs, or social programs. But much of that money flows into defense contractors, corporate subsidies, and financial bailouts. When the bill comes due, spending at the top is rarely cut. Instead, taxes rise, currencies are inflated, social benefits are reduced. The debt is presented as serving the public, but the burden lands on ordinary people, while profits flow to bondholders. Then there are bailouts. In 2008, banks made reckless bets and nearly collapsed the global economy. Who paid for the rescue? Taxpayers. And who benefited afterward? The same banks, bigger, more concentrated, and more powerful than before. Gains were privatized, losses were socialized, and the public was told this was necessary to save the system. Pensions are another illusion. For decades, people have paid into government systems believing their money was being saved. In reality, much of it was spent immediately. All that remained were promises. I owe us, to be paid by future taxpayers. As populations age, the system strains, and the solution is always the same: reduced benefits, higher retirement ages, or inflation that quietly erodes payouts. Notice the pattern. Inflation is called growth. Debt is called investment. Bailouts are called stability. Cuts are called reform. Language hides reality. Because at every stage, wealth is transferred upward, from the many to the few. In recent decades, the tricks have become more sophisticated. Take quantitative easing. Trillions of dollars were created to stabilize markets. Asset prices soared. But who owns most assets? The wealthy. For ordinary households, the benefits were limited. The costs came later, through higher living expenses and distorted markets. Inflation itself has become the ultimate stealth tax. When prices rise faster than wages, purchasing power disappears. Your salary may be higher in numbers, but lower in reality. This is not an accident. It is policy. Regulation follows the same logic. On the surface, rules are meant to protect the public. Behind the scenes, powerful industries shape them to eliminate competition and lock in profits. Complexity becomes camouflage. Tax codes thousands of pages long. Budgets buried under jargon. Systems too confusing to follow. When people cannot see the transfer of wealth, they cannot resist it. Rome debased coins. Modern governments bury reality in balance sheets. Different tools, same game. And this is why it matters now. Debt is rising. Inflation is persistent. Bailouts are routine. The cost is quietly passed to you. History doesn't repeat, but it does punish those who don't understand it. The financial tricks that drained Roman citizens are the same ones draining your bank account today. Only the language has changed. If you recognize the pattern in time, you have a chance. If you don't, the system will never stop playing you. If this made you see things differently, subscribe. History isn't behind us. It's happening again.